Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. McClellan, and because our live review the other day sort of crashed and burned on a technical level, I wanted to follow up and just give you another run through the exam. And unfortunately, Dr. Wilcox is still feeling a little under the weather, so I was happy to jump on here solo. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and jump over to the exam. Give me 1 second. Okay. Tell me if you're seeing the window in which I shared the exam, and then jumping over to the exam page. Okay, good. I think we're ready to go. So as I was talking about in the 5-minute excerpt from my previous exam review, this page is very, very important. Do not neglect it. I just want to review a few things, but make sure you read the entire page very thoroughly. First of all, these are not open book. You may not have any materials with you while you take the exam to help, but you can have a blank sheet of paper which you can put on the desk and then write stuff that you remember, and also take, do calculations. It's kind of like a math exam. You can do your work. You can draw a little staff and have work out your intervals and your time signatures and everything like that. The other thing is Proctor Track. This is a spying software which will watch your every move. Everything you do during the exam is visible and recorded, both on video of your face and everything around you, also your screen. So you can't go to other browser windows or programs or web pages, because we will see that. Now, we don't sit there and watch every single minute, but if something is suspicious or looks funny, the software is very smart and it flags that, and then we, the professors, go in and look at it and make a judgment about whether it is really an infraction. If you yawn, if you lean back, if your face goes off the screen for a minute, that's going to be flagged. We're going to look at it. We're going to say, oh, that's fine. But if you're flagged and it is something suspicious and funny, then we have to take action, and we hate doing that. We would much rather have everybody sail right through. So just be really cautious and don't, just don't forget that you're on camera. That's really what I want to say. And this is mostly about caution. I don't think you're going to try to cheat or anything, but people can accidentally trigger the suspicion marking that we get. So long way of saying, just be careful, and make sure that you're in a well-lighted place, that you're quiet. If somebody interrupts you, just politely tell them, I'm in an exam right now, I can't talk. That will get flagged, but we'll see it and we'll know that that's okay. So all of that said, just be really careful. So then the other thing about the exam that's really important, and I'm going to take a quick break to make sure that I'm actually running here. So I'm going to show my video. And I'm going to take a quick, okay. I hear the sound of my own voice, which I hate. And I also see a question from Alexandra, which is fantastic. So let me see what she had to say. On the practice exam, for the third page, we are given a note and a key signature for the harmonic function. Are we comparing the key signature note to the note that is given, i.e. the relative distance between G and the note given C? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, I'm going to come back to this in just a moment, so stay with me. All right, and just make sure that I'm still showing what I think I'm showing. Okay, good. The other key thing I really want to emphasize is that the practice exam is your friend. In fact, the practice exam is your exam. It's all the exact same pool of questions. We have hundreds of questions. Each time a student opens the exam, our software randomly draws from that set of questions. And it's the same exact pool of questions in the practice exam that's in the core concepts. So if you take the practice exam, you're taking the exam. So if you do well on it, you're going to do well on the exam. So the best favor you can do yourself is to do that practice exam as many times as you would like. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through it and just examine any of the material that is in there and talk it through briefly. This is not going to be comprehensive, but I just want to give you a quick feeling. So pitch ID. This is just knowing what the name of a note is. Hopefully at this stage you're getting quicker with this and it should be no issue. If you are still, it's totally fine if you still need to take time with each one to be methodical and make sure you're getting it right. If you're a musician and you do this all the time, it becomes automatic. But if you're new to this, totally fine. The key is to get it right, not to get it quickly. So for me, the thing that's most helpful is remembering that the clefs are big letters of the alphabet. The treble is a G, the bass clef is an F, and the note that little part of the G circles around is a G. And the part that the F goes around is an F, the F line and the G line. And from there you can count up or down. So I'm going to quickly do this one. G is this line, A space, G line, G line, A space, B line, C space, D line, E space, F line, G space. We get into the ledger lines, A line, B space, C line, D space, and so now we know this is an E and it's an E sharp. And you can see that I already answered that one correctly for myself. Go me. Now this next section is again asking you to identify the notes based on the keyboard. So the steps here are figure out where that note is on the keyboard and then simply give the numbered key starting from the left of the keyboard of that particular note. And the notes are on the keyboard are numbered only for reference. That's all these numbers mean, is that it's a way to keep, so you don't have to count from the left every single time. So let's do one quickly. This is an E sharp, and on the staff, if it didn't have this 8VA thing, that would be, so it's the E above middle C plus an octave would be this E sharp, which is actually the same as an F, but with the 8VA, it's up an octave, so jump up to here, and that is note number 69. So that's pretty much how you do those ones. Okie dokie, moving right along. I'm just going to make sure everything is still cooking on a technical level. And we have another question from Alexandra. I'll answer this one quickly. Thanks for asking these. This is great. Are we going to be given a pop-up keyboard for the exam? You know, that's a good question. We just changed this recently, and I don't know for 100% sure, but I'm going to say that if you open the pop-up while you're taking it, that is absolutely fine. So just make sure not to lose your place in the exam. So maybe open it up at the beginning, and if it's causing you issues, that you can restart. But on the another thing, we will let you take your blank sheet of paper and quickly draw out a little keyboard on it just for reference, for visual reference. That's absolutely fine and can be a huge help. Okay, so and the other question was about the third page, so I'll come to that momentarily. So beat divisions and time signatures. This is all about the rhythm unit, and it's sort of a big laundry list of different types of questions. So I'll just go through a couple of these briefly. Again, this is not going to be comprehensive, but just to give you a sense. In a simple duple meter, if the beat equals an eighth note, a beat divides into. So this is kind of a math logic type question. And if one beat equals an eighth note, remember that a beat can be almost any kind of note value. And a beat divides into, so if it's a simple duple meter, simple, keyword is simple, that means the beat divides into two equal halves, two equal parts, and 1/8 note divides into 2/16 notes. So I'm going to go with that as the answer, 2/16 notes. Whoops. In a simple meter, if the beat was then you have to know what kind of note this is, 16th note. the beat would divide evenly into which of the following. So now the beat is even smaller, and this may feel a little odd because you don't often see time signatures where the beat is a 16th note, but it does happen. And if that did happen, what would be the next smallest value? Again, simple, that beat would divide into, and we have two 30-second notes with 3 beams. I'm just picking these at random to give you a kind of smorgasbord. In a compound meter, if the beat was a dotted whole note, the beat would divide evenly into which of the following? Now we're on the other end of the size scale, and this is tricky because dotted whole note's really big, and now we're in a compound meter where one single beat is inherently a dotted value, which can often trip people up because you're basically dealing with a dot means it adds half the value, so it's a kind of 1.5 type value, which divides into 3 halves. So what's 3 halves of the non-dotted value? So a whole note would be half of a whole note would be a half note, and 3 half notes would fit into a dotted whole note. So the answer is going to be 3 half notes, and it would sound like 1 2 3 2 2 3. Let's say we were in 6 1, which is a very unusual meter, but you need to be able to kind of do these calculations. It would be 1 2 3 2 2 3 1 2 3 2 2 3, and so on. Okay, moving on, try to get some different types of questions. Now we get into time signatures. Which meter has 2 beats per measure with a beat duration of a dotted 8th note? Oh boy. All right, getting trickier. So dotted 8th note. Now remember that with compound time signatures, the number on the bottom of the time signature is actually 1/3 of a beat, not the entire beat. So don't be led astray by the 8 on the bottom of the time signature, and then you see an 8th note. That is not what you need. You actually want 6/16 because that means that 3 16th notes fit into the dotted 8th, and that's 1 beat. And there's 2 groups of 3 16th notes in 6/16, which fits the 2 beats per measure. So again, you just have to be really solid on how all of this works. 12/4, how many beats per measure? Don't be led astray by the compound time signature. The bottom number is not the beat, so they're not 12 beats. Instead, the top number divides into 3, or divides by 3, and so there are now 4 beats in that in each measure of 12/4. All right, moving right along. There's one that I think I did earlier that I think that, okay, I'm going to skip that. All right, so again, be methodical, ask us questions if you have them, and that's great. I'm just going to make sure that I'm seeing all the questions coming in. Somebody said, when are we starting? It's 9:31. It's already started. Just answering that question. Hope that person finds us. Oops, I meant see below, sorry. Anyway, to the person who just asked, the live exam is right here in Piazza. Okay, so back to page 3, harmonic functions, yes. So based on the key signature, identify the harmonic function of the given pitch. And the harmonic function is one of those equivalencies with scale degree and solfege. So the first note of a scale is scale degree 1, also known as do in solfege, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. And then in the harmonic function language, it's the tonic. So again, each note has 3 different names within the key. And we're asking here for the 3rd type of name, the harmonic function. So based on the major key signature, what is the harmonic function of the given note? So step 1, identify what major key you're in. Step 2, find the tonic of that major key. And then step 3, count up or down from, well, I recommend counting up from that tonic note that you've identified to the note given in the question, and then determine, well, the easiest way would be to determine the scale degree and then translate that into the harmonic function. So in this key signature, we're in D flat, and so find the tonic of D flat, and it's going to be the bottom space below the bottom line of the staff. And then so that would be scale degree 1, E flat would be 2, F would be 3, G would be scale degree 4, and then count down the list. Tonic is scale degree 1, supertonic is 2, mediant is 3, subdominant is 4. So this is the subdominant note of the major key. Now I'm going to jump back to Alexandra's question. On the practice exam for the 3rd page, you're given a note and a key signature. Yes, you are comparing the key signature note to the note that is given in the key of G as a G note. Yeah, if I read you right, I think what you mean is the key signature note meaning the tonic. So in the key of G, G is the tonic note, and you're comparing that note, which is not shown in the assignment, but you have to just know what it is, and you're comparing that to the note that's given. And then, yes, it's the relative distance. So that's exactly what you should do, and it sounds like you understand that correctly. So I'm going to mark this resolved. If you have follow-up questions, please let me know. I'm just going to do another one for fun. Sort of a nasty one here. Well, that's the same key signature. Okay, here's a good one with sharps. Based on the minor key signature, what is the harmonic function of the given note? Ooh, okay. So for me, the easiest way here is to start with the major. People do this with different ways, but your goal, again, is to determine what is the tonic note. And then you're going to compare that with and get the relative distance to the note that's given in front of you in the question. So what minor key signature has 5 sharps? Well, for me, the easiest way is to figure out the major key signature and then use the relative minor calculation. So the major key signature with 5 sharps is B major. For me, the way I find the relative minor, which shares the same key signature, is I walk down 3 scale degrees, starting with the tonic of B major. So B, down to the leading tone A sharp, down to the 6th scale degree G sharp. Now, relative minor, translate that G sharp into a tonic of the minor, the relative minor. We're now in the key of G sharp minor. Back to the question. G sharp is the tonic. Let's find the note D sharp from the G. So I'm going to walk down, imagine in your head, and this is where a scratch paper could be useful. You could actually write this out for yourself and mark down the tonic. And I'm just going to do this in my head. So G is below the 2nd ledger line. Then A is the 2nd ledger line. Sorry, G sharp, A sharp. And then B is below the 1st ledger line. C sharp is the 1st ledger line. And then D. So that is going to be G sharp, A sharp. G sharp is 1, A sharp is 2, B is 3, C sharp is 4. This is going to be D sharp is going to be the 5th scale degree. And then again, translate that to harmonic function language. Tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant. Dominant is the 5th scale degree, so that's going to be dominant. So these questions look simple, but there's a number of steps that go into them, and that's why we're asking these particular questions. Okay, so that's about it. I'm just going to see if anybody has other questions. I'll sort of hang out for 1 minute, and then we're going to wrap this up. And we are always available on email and Piazza for your follow-up questions. And trying to think if there's anything else you should know. Yes, there is. Proctor track, exam verification. Read all of this very, very carefully. And also, don't wait until the last minute to set this up, because ProctorTrack is a separate software. It interacts with your browser. It's a little complicated, and things can go wrong. And we really don't want you to have a technical issue and not be able to finish the exam by Tuesday, November 8th. Now, you've probably been hearing a lot about Tuesday, November 8th, and some would argue that the biggest deal of the day is the national election. But don't forget that it's also a very important day in our course, which is the due date of your exam. That said, if you are, and I'm serious here, if you are somebody who has no time to vote except 1 hour that entire day, and that's the only hour you can do your exam, and the only hour you could vote, contact us, because we'd rather have you vote for whoever you're going to vote for. But it's much more important to vote than to finish your exam if it comes down to a choice. But really, that's why you should do your exam today or tomorrow and not on Tuesday. So that little spiel is probably entirely necessary. But now we have some questions. Me blabbing on allowed people to add questions, which is great. So next question. For the sheet of paper, it should be blank, correct? Yes, correct. Then we can write stuff on it as we go through the questions. Or are we allowed to have key points on there, such as the circle of fifths? People ask this sometimes, and our policies know you shouldn't bring it in with the key points written on it. But what you could do is, if you really want to be solid on those, grab a blank sheet of paper, have the circle of fifths handy somewhere, start the exam, put the circle of fifths away so you can't see it, but immediately write it down from memory on your blank sheet of paper so that it's in your head, but you also have it as a reference. So that might sound like a kind of silly way of cheating the system. It's totally fair to, as long as it's coming out of your head and not from some other source. That's what we're going for. Yeah, and I would recommend showing it before and after. That would be a great idea. Thanks for that. Back to Alexandra. Why wouldn't you use the G on the treble clef instead? Oh, so that's a great point. So going back to well, it's going to be hard to find. Let me see if I can easily find it. I went down to the lower G because for me it's easier to count up from the bottom. I think it was on this one. If you are comfortable counting down from the upper tonic, that's totally fine. So let me walk through that as well. So this is going to be the G sharp tonic minor. That's the tonic. And then let's say we're in the natural minor for keep things simple. The subtonic is F sharp. The submediate is E. And then the dominant is still D sharp. So just to walk down that direction. So if we had the tonic here, now we're going up, but you get the point. Then subtonic or leading tone, these are both 7th scale degree. Keep that in mind. That's the only one that has both. So that's the only place where the scale, there's one scale degree for 2 harmonic functions. So tonic, subtonic, or leading tone, then submediate, then dominant. So you can count either direction. Absolutely fine. Whatever is easiest for you. Okay, we're going to resolve that one. Viran, again, will we immediately get our grade for the exam? I believe, well, okay, so yes and no. I actually forget if it shows you your grade in the course right away, but we, in terms of getting the official final result, there is a delay because we have to, ProctorTrack first has to process your video, and that takes a few days, and then we have to go and watch all of them for any suspicious things. And most people get at least one flag where they sneezed or something happened. So it does take a little while for us to verify and sort of pass your exam through for to be official. But I think it shows you your response, your grade on it sooner than that. If not, let us know, and we'll figure it out. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. Just hang out for one more minute while in case people have questions. See what else there is to ask Proctor Track, whoops, hidden to students. I shouldn't be showing you these highly top secret pieces of information. Technical requirements, read all this stuff. Just make sure that you read the student manual. That's really important because it is a technical thing and I want to make sure that you guys have the information you need. Okay, so one more minute and then I'm gonna call it a day. I see one other question, Alexandra. Will we be given the list you provided in the practice exam with tonic? So that is in the course right here. So the screen I'm showing you, oh, so yeah, it's the practice exam. You know what, I'm pretty sure that is going to show up in the exam. I'll double check it right after this, after I hang up on this video, and if not, I'll let you know. And that's another thing that you could write down from memory on your sheet, your blank sheet, as a insurance, as a memory aid, but you can't bring it in with you. But I think it's going to be there. I know those harmonic function terms are a little hard to remember sometimes. Okay, going to mark that resolved. Hang out one more minute. I love getting all these questions. This is great. So thank you so much for that, because as you know, with each person who has a question, you're not the only one who has that question. So you're doing other people a favor when you ask a question, and there are no dumb questions. Okay. In general, though, I would say yes, memorize stuff. That's the safest way to go. Okay. So I'm going to pin this to the top. Just hanging out one more minute to see if people have any last questions. All right, I'm going to sign off, and if you have questions, absolutely shoot them over to us on Piazza, send us emails, and again, make sure you vote on Tuesday for whoever you're going to vote for. That's more important than the exam, but the exam is also really, really important. So do it today. Okay, let's talk to all of you, and I will see you all later. Good luck on the exam.